When working with variables that contain strings or numbers, there's often a need to join their values to create a new string, either to display directly on screen or to store in another variable. This is particularly important when using PHP to send an email message. There are several ways to build strings from variables, and to demonstrate that I've opened this file, join_strings.php, which you can find in the chapter 2 02_06 folder of the exercise files. The basic method to build a string from other values is to use the concatenation operator. Concatenation is just a fancy technical term that means to link in a chain or series. In many programming languages, the plus sign is used as the concatenation operator, but PHP is the odd one out. It uses a dot or period. So let's use the concatenation operator to join the values of first name and last name together in a new variable, in a new string called full name. So we'll have first name, then the concatenation operator, a dot or period, and then last name. I've added a space on either side of the concatenation operator for readability. It's small, so it can be difficult to see. Having the space on either side makes your code easier to maintain. So we've added those together now. That's a new string, full name. So echo full name. We'll save that and load the page into the browser. And full name is displayed there, but there is no space between David and Powers, no space between first name and last name. Adding that space on either side of the concatenation operator doesn't make any difference. That's white space that is ignored by PHP. If you want to have a space in there, you need to add a literal space. So let's just duplicate that line and comment out the previous one. And we need to put in a literal string consisting of a single space and then another concatenation operator. If we save that and refresh the page in the browser, we've now got the space between those two values. But quite frankly, that's not the most efficient way to put a space between variables. A better way would be to use a double-quoted string. So let's create a double-quoted string for title and author. We'll save that as book, and double quotes, then title, a space, some literal text, by, and then author, our other variable. And I'm going to add the concatenation operator in here and put in an HTML BR tag, and then we will echo the value of book. So if we save that and refresh the browser, there is the value of title, the literal text by, and then the value of author. They've all been processed by PHP because they're in a double-quoted string. So the more efficient way of getting that space in full name would have been to use a double-quoted string. So let's just quickly do that. We'll duplicate that line, comment out the previous one, and then we'll have a double-quoted string. We can get rid of the concatenation operator and the literal space there, and we just need to have double quote at the end. We've got a space between the two. If we save that and refresh, we still get that space between David and Powers. When sending an email with PHP, the body of the message needs to be a single string, and often this information comes from many different fields in an online form, so a convenient way to merge them into a single string is with what's known as the combined concatenation operator. This consists of a period or dot immediately followed by an equals sign. What it does is it adds the new string to the end of the existing one. So let's create an email message. I'm just going to comment out these two lines here, and then we'll create our new variable called message, and we'll start off with the ordinary assignment operator, and then a double quoted string. We'll have name, and then we'll use our full name, and we want to have some new lines in between. So here on line 7 is a variable called new lines. It uses the escape sequence for a carriage return, new line character, carriage return, new line character. And we could add it directly at the end of full name without any space in between, because the $sign indicates that it's a new variable. But I think it probably makes it more easy to read your code if you put a little space in there, and then we'll have new lines. So that is the first line of our message. Then we want to add something to the end of the message. So it will be message, and then the combined concatenation operator. So a dot or period followed immediately by the equals sign. And then another double quoted string. We'll have literal text book, colon, followed by our variable book. And then our new lines. And then we'll add something else to our message. So we need the combined concatenation operator again. And then double quoted string, answer, and we'll have our variable answer. And so if we then echo message, save that, and refresh the page in a browser, it then displays name, David Powers, book by Douglas Adams, answer 42. Everything has been added together by using the combined concatenation operator here on the next lines. We don't actually see the new lines in here. That's because browsers don't display carriage returns and new line characters. But if we right click and view the page source, we can see that those new lines have been added in. Technically speaking, a string can be as large as up to 2 gigabytes, but don't go mad. Some beginners think that everything in a PHP page needs to be stored in variables and displayed using echo. That's not true. PHP is designed to be embedded in HTML, so only those parts that change need to be stored as variables. So I'm going to open this file here, embedded.php, which you can also find in the exercise files for this video. At the top of the page are several variables that have been hard-coded. Normally they would come from an external source such as a database. And then down here in the HTML part of the page, I've used PHP blocks and echo to display those variables. Book is being displayed here, then there's another PHP block down here to display author, and then down at the bottom, yet another PHP block to display answer. When you're displaying just a single string, you can use a shorthand for echo. So instead of having echo here and the full opening PHP tag, I can delete echo and PHP and just replace that PHP with an equals sign. This is a very useful shorthand, but it only works when you're displaying a single string. You can't combine other PHP operations in the same PHP block. So if I just save that quickly, we can see that this will work exactly the same as using echo here. If we load the page into a browser, everything that is highlighted, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, and 42, they're coming from dynamic sources. They're coming from the PHP. Everything else that's not highlighted is static HTML. So when you need to join strings, use the concatenation operator, which is a dot or period. You can also use double quotes to combine the value of variables with literal text. And the combined concatenation operator, a dot immediately followed by an equals sign, lets you add more text to an existing variable. But when there's a lot of static text, don't forget that PHP can be embedded in HTML. And to display a single string, you can use the shorthand for echo, which consists of a less than symbol and a question mark, immediately followed by an equals sign.